Good morning. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving holiday. Hope you got to spend some time with family by some methodology over the holidays. And tomorrow is Sunday, and I hope to see you at church. But if you don't feel comfortable coming to worship, or if you can't come to worship, please join us online at 9 o'clock on Facebook or on YouTube. And when you do that, I'd like for you to click that like button so that we get a record that you were there and we know who's in attendance and who we need to follow up with. Today I'd like to start out by reading a scripture. It's Matthew chapter 6, beginning in verse 19. I'm going to read 19 and 20. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. You know, it sounds almost like a security system. Don't store stuff up here, it's going to get destroyed or stolen. Store it up in heaven, where it's going to be safe. Have you ever had something stolen? Back in 1971, in 1970, I had installed an 8-track stereo cassette player in my car. Came out of class one night. Car had been broken into and the stereo had been stolen, been ripped right out from underneath the dash. I felt violated. Somebody had stolen from me. You know, since then I've had a lot of stuff stolen over the years, I guess. Some of it much more valuable than that tape player was, but it's always feels like a violation. You always have emotions attached to having something stolen. What about rust? I had a gun one time that I really loved. I had an emotional attachment to that gun because I'd carried it. It was in the trunk of my car, in a case, locked in a case. Car trunk, I did not know it had a leak in it. Water got to that gun. Almost destroyed that gun. Looked horrible. Took it to a gun shop, had it redone, reblued. It was beautiful again. Functioned flawlessly again. But rust almost destroyed that gun. Years later, after I got married, Kitty and I were downtown on the 4th of July on the General Jackson watching the fireworks display. Got off the boat, started heading home. My phone rang. One of my daughters had been in a car wreck. Drunk driver had run her off the road. She went across a ditch that had where a concrete bridge was going with somebody's driveway. The car hit that bridge. Everybody told me she was all right at the time I got there. Todd and Jennifer Elliott were there. A lot of people were there. You know, the lady whose bridge the car hit, came up to Kitty a lot later and she says, I was really impressed. And Kitty said, well, why? And she said, well, it took your husband over 30 minutes before he went and looked at the car. Somebody came and got me and said, hey, you want to see the car? And I said, well, yeah, I guess so. That was a long time after I had spent time with my daughter and made sure she was all right and that everything was fine. Went and looked at the car. You know, the reason it took me 30 minutes to go see that car instead of going straight to Kathy and seeing her is because Kathy is where my heart was. I want us to look at verse 21. I'm going to read 20 and 21 again to make sure it's in context. Verse 20 says, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. You know, I think there's a test that we need to take. Let's talk about our spare time. What do you spend most of your time thinking about in your spare time? What's on your mind right before you go to sleep at night? What's on your mind first thing in the morning when you get up before you eat your breakfast? What do we spend most of our spare time doing? What do we spend most of our spare time thinking about? What do we spend most of our spare time concerned about? I think we all need to take that little test and be honest with ourselves. Because where our treasures are, that's where our heart is. Be safe. Stay well out there.